Hello and welcome to the Athletic NBA Show. It's Friday. I'm Dave DeFore. That means it's Nerder. She wrote, joining me as they do each and every week, Seth Partnow and Mo Kill. And we're all drinking our coffee because going a little early here Friday morning, and we were up late watching the Nuggets and Suns. Good playoff basketball, but we're going to start with the earlier game. Sixers Celtics going to a game 7 on Sunday, killing what should have been a nice free weekend for all the NBA folks. Man, if you're the Celtics, you got to feel pretty lucky. And if you're the Sixers, you got to feel pretty sick, Mo.
Oh, I mean, if you're the Sixers, you have a pit in your stomach right now of really had the opportunity to go to the conference final, something they haven't done since the AI days, right? Am I missing something here? Like it's massive. And just think about it this way. If you're Doc Rivers, you haven't made the conference final since what, 2013? Like you're really kind of an opportunity for you to kind of shake this whole I can't win closeout games. If you're James Harden, another opportunity, another thing, kind of legacy. You just had big games in this series, another moment to add to your playoff history, and B, to finally get to the conference finals. And the Celtics were struggling. Jason Tatum 1 of 13 at this point, and they just couldn't close out. I'm sorry, Philly. Like I feel terrible for you.
Look, it's a make or miss league.
Having, yeah. Well, I was going to say, at least you don't have to wake up and watch endless replays of the Kawhi 4 bouncer because it's the 4th anniversary of that. Oh, it is the 4th anniversary.
Oh, wow. You're piling. You did that to be mean, Seth.
Yes.
You did that to be mean.
I did.
That was cruel.
I did.
Well, let's jump into this series a little bit because, we don't get a chance to do this very often, to set up game 7. So, I mean, I want to start with Jason Tatum. You mentioned he was 1 of 13 to start that game. And by start that game, I mean, until the fourth quarter, he was struggling. I'm not going to say he was bad because the guy's job is hard. But wait. Well, he plays defense. Okay. So like he still does his job. He just missed a lot of shots, and some of them were tough that he makes and that he made even in the fourth quarter. This guy, I mean, he had a rough game.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Mo and I were watching his decisions with the ball. He was loose with the ball. He had turnovers, and I think his defense was unenergetic at times as well. I think he had about as tough a 2 or 3 quarters, like all around. This is not a situation where a guy's playing hard, playing well, and just missing shots. He was playing poorly overall for much of the first 3 quarters of that game.
I mean, just to put it into perspective, do you remember in game 1 when Malcolm Brogdon threw the ball to Tyrese Maxey at the end of the clock, and that led to that kind of disaster? Jason Tatum had the same thing happen in the 7-minute mark of the fourth quarter. He in transition goes to pull up for a terrible transition 3, realizes it's about to get blocked, looks to throw the pass, and he throws it right to James Harden. Like he was awful for 3.5 quarters. I know what you're saying, Dave. Like, he didn't do a bad job rebounding, did have a couple of assists and things like that in that, but just the overall feel in that game, he was awful in that situation for the Celtics. And then when he came alive, this is what we were talking about. These were some badass shots. And I don't mean badass in like, yo, he's a badass. They were bad shots. They were no, okay shots. The 3 on Embiid to get the party rolling, to put them up 1 was a terrible, terrible shot. Then coming off a pick and roll into a step back off of Tyrese Maxey, which we can debate good or bad, like drills that one. It's just kind of like those 2 shots. I'm just like, holy shit, you've been terrible all game. Like, give credit to short memory to be able to have the confidence to take those shots after that.
Well, he missed his first 6 threes and then finishes the game 4 of 11 from 3. Like, he didn't beat himself in this game, and he won the game for the Celtics. Just they hung around just enough for him to hit shots and for the Sixers to miss. And it's kind of been the story of this series where Jaylen Brown has been the guy attacking the rim, putting pressure on the defense, driving kick, just keeping them in it. And this was another example. And then, down the stretch of another game, they go away from Jaylen Brown, and this time it actually worked out because Tatum like woke up, or his shot started going in, or someone flipped the magnet on the ball or something. But they went away from Jaylen Brown a little bit, but Jaylen Brown kept them in this game for the majority of it. And, he's been doing that the entire series. This is, it's funny that the All NBA announcements happened this week, and there's a lot of conversations about how both of these guys are now super max eligible. And I think there's a weird conversation that happens outside of my NBA circle where people act like these two guys aren't perfect partners. But I think that was an example of why, because Jaylen Brown was so aggressive and staying on top of the Sixers that they couldn't really take a break. And it allowed Jason Tatum room to suck.
Is it fair to say that Tatum is more talented, but Jaylen Brown is tougher? And this is not me. I'm not saying that Jason Tatum is not a tough player.
Sure.
I'm saying that Jaylen Brown, like that is a high level trait of his. And I think that's, I think enough has been said about his, struggles as a ball handler and stuff like that. But, and I think we saw this in the finals too last year when Tatum was kind of in his own head a little bit. Like Jaylen Brown was the guy who would stick his head down and for better or the worse, I'm going that way hard. And that's an interesting dichotomy between those two in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment in that scenario. Like Brown was really good for 3 quarters, then he slips on a wet spot and I just kind of disappeared. But he also has been disappearing in the fourth quarter throughout this series, and I think it's more the product of the Celtics offense. I think we were having this discussion, Dave, and you might enjoy this one. If the Celtics had lost this game, this conversation on Tatum, I mean, this would because the media loves to do it. It would have been a referendum on Tatum's career, and we would have said it's over at 26 or whatever, and setting up the comeback for next season and all the storylines that go with that. But the Celtics offense has to help these guys. They need to put an offense together that actually helps these guys so that it's not they have to bear the weight of just create shit. This is and I don't mean just be playmakers. They just don't have anything. They don't run anything. They call it random. Like when I was a video coordinator, yeah, I'd have a play section that we would call random. We were never supposed to have like 5 or 6 plays more than that of randomness in the game. They have the entire game of randomness and 5 or 6 just actual plays. Like the offense has to help these guys in that sense, the structure that they have to build in that. And I mean, they got lucky tonight or yesterday.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays.
To your point, after the game, Marcus Smart, he called out Joe Mazzulla and said, he's been getting killed, rightfully so. You got your player sitting there in the post game, honestly saying, you know what, the media is kind of right. He's sucked a little bit. It was.
Don't say that, Marcus. Don't say the quiet part out loud, dude.
It's so funny to me because this is not just a Joe Mazzulla problem, because this was an Ime Udoka problem and this was a Brad Stevens problem. At a certain point, we've got to start looking at the players and say, maybe there is a system and the players either don't know it or just don't want to run it. And that's what it is. I refuse to believe that NBA coaches aren't putting in a playbook.
So I think that this is going to sound weird that I'm doing this today, but I think that if Jason Tatum in particular took a little bit of a page from Devin Booker's book, and when like a couple seasons ago, I think it was Monty Williams' first season, when Booker first kind of transitioned from being kind of more of an empty calories guy to a really impactful player, he talked a lot about like point fiving, like catching the ball, making a quick decision. And I think that's something that Tatum has all the ability in the world, that if he just went just that half count faster, instead of catching and settling, catching and surveying, there's so many times where if he just caught and went when he catches the ball, because I think I disagree with Mo a little bit. I think their offense does get him the ball in spots at times where he's got like a semi closeout coming to him, but he doesn't take advantage of it because he catches and holds and surveys. And so I think it's a little bit of both in that if he just did that, not every time. There are times where, survey the floor, do a thing is right. But I think better balancing that will make his life easier. Will get them in situations where they attack a closeout, kick, attack a closeout again, kick. That almost moved at times, the start of the season, they had a little bit of that beautiful game Spurs to them. And they've maybe gone away from that.
Your stars are stars because they hit the tough shots, but you've got to find a way to get them some easy ones. Every shot can't be a tough contested shot. And it wears you down. I just, by this point in the season, all this individual shot creation, it's got to be exhausting.
And to go to your point, Seth, that's also coaching. That's also the coach. That's also creating film. Turn to your video guy. Hey, I want every time he's done that over the last 5 games where he's had the advantage, but he stopped and didn't take advantage of it. Like, that's coaching. That's what you do. That's the job. That's part of it, and I think that's part of what I'm talking about in that sense. And Dave, and you're right, fatigue's definitely setting in. I mean, Tatum made a point to play every game this season and play major minutes and all of that stuff. I'm not a fan of load management, but the dude didn't need to play as many minutes as he played. You could have found a little more rest spots. And if there was an opportunity to maybe sit him a game, probably should have, because it's catching up to him now. You could see it here where he does look tired with these things. It's funny. They won this game and we're kind of shitting on them. It's sort of,
because honestly, they should have lost.
They had no business winning. And I want to go back to Philly real quick.
Right.
Because I do want to say this, like, we ding Mazzulla all the time for especially timeouts. I thought Doc did a terrible job in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, first let's praise Mazzulla first, and we'll hammer the Sixers because, like you said, there were problems with what they were doing, but I think the biggest change that Mazzulla made was Rob Williams in the starting lineup. That was a game changer for Boston. Just an intensity level change, giving them more size to start the game instead of, letting the Sixers kind of get ahead, not a head start because they haven't done that in every game, but they get a chance to get themselves going in a way that they couldn't with Rob Williams out there.
I think we talk a lot about spacing and how important it is to create space. I think that there were certainly plays in the game where the vertical spacing that Robert Williams provided, there's been times in the series where particular Tatum and Brown have been, I think it's fair to say, intimidated by Embiid at the rim. And just adding that lob threat in a couple spots gave them a little bit more, just a little more opening to go finish the rim, because Embiid is at least thinking about, I can't fully commit because they'll just throw the lob over my head and this guy will dunk it. And I think I think getting back to a little bit of that, I think he had like 2 or 3 lobs he caught, and then just a couple times where Embiid was just like one step further off than he has been from cutting the basket area off.
Yeah, I just think it helps them also just defensively. Another rim protector and things in that stretch, in that meltdown for the Sixers. Embiid had a nice jump hook right after that Tatum 3 that he hit in his face, and Horford banging away with him. And that's tough enough, and it looks like a simple jump hook when you go to take that, but you have Al Horford on your body the whole way. And it was a clean play. I'm not saying foul or anything. But then on top of that, then you have to contend with Robert Williams coming over and trying to rotate. So now that kind of alters the shot and forced to miss. Like, I think that's kind of the stuff there. Like, that was smart from Mazzulla to make that change there. I thought that was an important one there. And the other thing, too, was he didn't play guys that sucked. I mean, he went with a 7-man rotation. He sliced his rotation down massively.
Getting Grant Williams out of there was massive for them. And you worry about, at least they don't have a short turnaround, right? They've got a couple of days off before they've got that game 7 on Sunday. And so, you're able to go short when you get a little bit more rest, but getting Grant Williams out of there, it's one less guy that the Sixers could attack. And in particular, James Harden couldn't attack them. All right, let's move to the Sixers. You said Doc Rivers, you didn't like the way that he approached the fourth. Was there anything he could have done before the fourth that maybe would have kept him out of that situation?
No, I mean, Seth has some points on that one. Let's
Yeah.
Tee up, Seth. Do that and tee up, Seth.
Seth.
I mean, two things. One, I think that Embiid clearly can't play, 12-minute straight stretches, and you got to find some ways to, whether it's play him shorter stints, whether it's just roll with, like, be prepared to roll with Paul Reed a little more. Like, Paul Reed has played well at times in the series. Seemed like there was a very short hook with him tonight. The other thing is, I thought that Doc's usage of challenges was bad. I thought that the one he ended up challenging was I think it was in, like, on first replay, a pretty obvious miscall. But at the same time, to take away a possession where the other team has to inbound with 7 seconds on the shot clock, you're not actually gaining that much from that. Whereas in the first quarter, there was what looked like a very questionable goaltending call. And if you're going to take 2 points off the board, like that, even in the first quarter, that's when you should be looking to use your challenge, because
Isn't that a little bit of just the system, right? You only get one and you want to save it just in case you need it down the stretch. I mean, this is kind of how we at least see them use it.
Yes, but I think that this is there's a differentiating. Like, I'm going to go back to Quinn Snyder, because I think he's the coach who understands best the kinds of plays on which you use challenges, and points off the board is that time. And points off the board in the first quarter, you can argue about first quarter possession versus fourth quarter possession, but is there any situation in the fourth quarter where you'd want to use that challenge? Like, say, oh, we don't have a challenge on this obvious bad out of bounds call. Well, we're up by 2 more points.
Right.
Which,
well, I mean, listen, yeah. I think from a coaching perspective, right? You think about it's sort of like coaches fouling their own guys out. Guy pick his early fouls, and you sit him on the bench, you fouled him out. I think that these guys want to hang on to that challenge in case, like, Embiid gets into foul trouble. If Embiid has 5 fouls and Marcus Smart flops, you want to be able to challenge it. And so, like, that is tough. Like, this is where the strategy of the challenge matters. And we've talked about this a little bit, not on the show, because I don't know how interesting it is, but I'll bring it up now. I think that if you're a team, you have to have, like, here are our time scenarios, like time on the clock. This is when I would use a timeout anyway. And if there's an opportunity to challenge that sort of aligns with that, not a bad time to use it. But otherwise, it is, I think, stuff like that where you're like, all right, I'm worried my guy might foul out and we need him late. I got to hang on to it. It's a finite resource set.
It's a perfect analogy, though, to fouling your own guys out.
Right.
Because it's that fear, it's sort of that irrational fear of a situation that is unlikely versus, or I could just take 2 points off the board right now.
Yeah,
and
I think that's the game. Like, I'm team save your challenges. You might need them at the end of the game. And if it's okay if it's not like timeouts, it's okay if at the end of the game you didn't use your challenge. I'm that security blanket. I need that. But I'm kind of with Seth on this, though. Unless it's to save my guy from foul trouble, unless it's to take points off the board. That challenge, and Seth called it right away. We're doing a playback. Join us on playback.tv for these games. Seth called it right away the dumbest challenge.
I thought it was a bad challenge. I've seen worse. There have been worse.
So just
okay.
Sorry.
I'm
giving you love.
Yeah, that was 3 dumbest.
I'm giving you compliment here, and you ruin it. You know how rare it is that I compliment you, Seth? We talk every day, and all I do is I try to fucking compliment you one fucking time, and you take it away. God. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm done with that point.
All
Done.
right, so
that screwed it up.
Let's move on from the challenge. The other thing was, I thought, the Sixers, they got tight. I mean, this is playoff basketball. You've got to score more than 13 points in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. It'd be hard to win games at this point in the playoffs if you can only put up 13 points in a quarter. I mean, the Warriors lose to Lonnie Walker because they only scored 17 points in the fourth the other night. And this is an example. I mean, they just got tight.
I mean, this is where I think coaching comes in. And this is where I think his fourth quarter coaching was an issue. And I think there were opportunities to really put their their hands around this game and really kind of kill the Celtics. I mean, this goes back to my favorite quote I love to use during the playoffs with Die Hard, right? It's Bruce Willis scrambling underneath the table, and the guy who's talking shit to him says, "Next time you have a chance to kill somebody, don't hesitate." And that wasn't for verbatim, but and Bruce just kind of says, "Yeah, you're right," and it shoots him through the table. Like it's just kind of like that's their opportunity. Like there was the moment Maxey got the clear path foul and that whole weird fiasco of the wrong guy shooting free throws. I have a small coaching thing that I don't think any coach really does. It probably goes back more to big plays in football with how I kind of developed this theory, but you've won that possession no matter what. You got your 2 points because you made your free throws on the clear path foul. You're getting the ball back. Maximize that. That I am running a sideline out of bounds play for a 3 right then and there. It's you get the turnover, big play in football, right? Then the very next play, we're going deep. Like that kind of stuff. Now you've made a 5-point possession if you make that 3. And I think that's the important thing with that. Instead, they went into, which fair enough, Embiid's their guy. Post up for Embiid. He ends up missing a jumper, I think, off the top of my head. But I think just in the fourth quarter, I felt like there were times Doc could have also settled this team down a bit. And hey, we need a good offensive possession here. And I just felt like he had a couple timeouts he could have used. I'm not talking about the last 2. I think he had one more he could have used. Just he needed to settle the team down there, and he just didn't. And I felt like there was a little bit of like, oh shit, here's Doc blowing another closeout game.
I mean, do you feel like they should have maybe gone to more Harden down the stretch? It seems like in this series, he is, and I know like not a great Harden game, but some of their best stuff has come with the ball in his hands, applying pressure, on the Celtics defense, and then creating kickouts for other people. I mean, Maxey had a great, we talked about it a little bit before the show. Maxey in the corner is actually dangerous because he can just kill you on a closeout, and he's such a smooth shooter. So he can either take the open look if it's there or just absolutely blow by you. And he got a dunk coming out of the corner in this game, and maybe a little bit more of that. Just spread out around Harden, let him slow the game down, which is a different version of slowing it down, and just grind him out a little bit in the fourth.
I think the Celtics have, over the course of the series, certainly last night, I thought they did a pretty good job at point of attack against Harden. I think this is a spot where Jaylen Brown hasn't always been noted for his defense. I think his commitment to sort of being physical, maybe not 94 feet, but 75 feet with Harden, I think that sort of took a toll. And Harden just at this point doesn't have the burst in fourth quarters to, there's, even when he gets a seam, there was the play where he kind of juked by, I think it was Brown, might have been Brogdon, and then tries to go at Horford. Horford just strips him. And that was, Boston had to use their challenge on that. But I mean, I'm not sure if just putting the ball in Harden's hands and letting him cook is where they are right now. But at the same time, there are ways they could do it to make it easier. I think we noted earlier Robert Williams, how he did a nice job of compressing the space. I think they're kind of letting the Celtics off the hook by having PJ Tucker stuck to that opposite corner. Even you were talking about Maxey playing out of the corner, just a simple exchange where okay, you're not necessarily worried about Tucker above the break, but then Williams at least has, oh, my guy's up there. What do I? There's at least that confusion. Whereas if Tucker's going to be in the corner, I can turn fully face the ball because I know where my guy is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's I don't know if I agree with the concept of going with Harden more in that it's just, and by the way this series has gone, good game 1, bad couple of games, good game 4, bad couple of games.
Oh, Harden's going for 50 in game 7.
Yeah, I'm just saying right now, game 7 might be a Harden masterpiece. Brace yourself, Boston. But I just think
he's going to cook. I'm excited for that.
Just be a little bit worried about that stuff. But I think I don't mind that stuff. They did get some good looks, like literally went through those final few minutes and basically their anemic offense down the stretch. They got decent looks. PJ Tucker missed a wide open corner 3 before the play Seth was talking about that they challenged. They had some where they had guys taking step backs that I didn't think they needed to, and so on. But I think just ultimately, that's again, sorry, I'm gonna just keep saying it. That's where your coach needs to settle you down. That's coaching. That's in the playoffs. That's coaching. Sometimes it's the timeout where you just go, everybody breathe. We're going to take this time out and do a breathing exercise. Everything's fine. Unpucker your buttholes, please. Let's go. Everybody relax. Let's go. And I think that's something that they kind of just needed in that. And every coach has plays that they go to that, like, this is a bucket for us. Let's run it now. And I just didn't feel like I felt like Doc's fourth quarter coaching was just not good.
Even just using those timeouts, I mean, you said earlier, like about the kind of the long stints for Embiid. Like part of the reason I think they go away from him is towards the end of the game. First of all, it's harder to go to big guys, like end of games, especially given Mo's favorite thing, the inability of NBA players to make entry passes. But okay, if he's wearing down, well, that's a pretty good use of a timeout. Okay, we're gonna get these are. The timeouts in playoff games are long. Let's get Joel like 2.5 minutes. Then we'll go. Then okay, I know you're having to work hard against Horford. Take a blow. You're going right back at him out of this timeout.
Yeah, I mean the timeouts wind up being 3 to 4 minutes, something like that, because you go to commercial or whatever. And you're right. It's just a way to keep them a little bit fresher. Game 7 is going to be Sunday. You guys got a prediction? Are the Celtics going to be able to do this, or Sixers to the conference finals?
It's weird. I think Boston's the better team, except that Philly looked like the better team for most of last night, and so at home, it's hard to not pick the Celtics. But this matchup is the Vicini with I can clearly not choose the glass of wine in front of you for a reason, but I can clearly not choose the glass of wine in front of me for equal opposite reasons. So I don't know.
Two movie references in one segment.
That was really. Yeah.
I'm actually going with the Celtics because I don't think Al Horford's going to continue to shoot like he's never shot a basketball before.
Right.
I feel like I think they Philadelphia blew a massive, massive chance right here, and now that they're going into Game 7. I feel like the pressure is even more on them and more on their guys, more on Doc, more on Harden. I feel like more on Embiid. The pressure is so big in all of that I think like this is going to be too much for them, and I don't trust them when the pressure is at its highest in all that scenario. And then another season where the NBA MVP doesn't get to the conference finals.
I kind of am thinking we might see a Tatum game on Sunday. The interesting part about his late blitz was he was the player who committed, and it was a terrible clear path foul, the one that that we talked about, and it was, and I don't want to like psychologize, but I will anyway. It's like, well, that's the dumbest thing I'm ever gonna do on a basketball court. Okay, well, it's time to play now. And then after that,
got that out of the way.
Yeah, got that out of the way. And okay, let's go now. And and his comments after the game were like, yeah, for 43 minutes I sucked.
That's exactly what I was about to jump in and say. His comments after the game were great. I was terrible. I sucked. I'm one of the best basketball players in the world, though. And he just kept playing. Like, that's that God, we're just throwing fucking references.
Oh God.
Be like a goldfish. Right? Like, yeah, the goldfish. Like that's it. Shout out to Ted Lasso. Dave, move on before we come up with another movie reference.
All right, we got to move off this topic because you guys are killing me with all this movie stuff. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. Visit linkedin.com/NBA show 23 for more information. Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and the seller at every stage, especially when the sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes, like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales, and we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/NBA Show 23. That is linkedin.com/NBA Show 23 for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/NBA Show 23 and get started.
Okay.
Die Hard. How can you be mad at that? That's a great
Die Hard
one.
is fine. Die Hard is fine. I just, we're in the weeds in the movie references at this point, and we have a series that's over. We have a conference finalist in the West, the Denver Nuggets, the 1 seed. Nikola Jokic was amazing in this series. This series went about the way we expected, right?
I think so.
Yep.
Maybe some of the contours are different. Like Ayton being out the last game.
Sure.
Is obviously not something. Chris Paul getting hurt was not exactly unexpected.
Well,
But I think Chris Paul getting hurt was not.
It kind of just happens every year. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not knocking the guy. It just,
Yeah.
He's old. He had an old man injury too. So
Yep.
that was a little bit expected on my part. Now, you don't anticipate, all right, he's definitely going to hurt his groin, but I'm not shocked that they couldn't rely on him.
Yeah, no, I gotta just own it here. Denver and the Denver Nuggets, I'm sorry. I was on the bandwagon at the start of the season, was all in, loved Bruce Brown, the pickup, all that stuff, was all excited. I did get scared during the season and backed off. And I'll tell you the exact moment. It was when Embiid kicked the shit out of y'all in Philadelphia. I jumped off the bandwagon, right? And I never got back on, and I didn't have enough faith in you guys even as the playoffs started. I apologize if y'all let me back on the bandwagon. I'd like to join you. Well, I'm all in that stuff. But they've been the best team throughout the entire playoffs, and they have everything that I love about playoff teams. And I'm so mad at myself for not really just kind of staying with them in the sense of they had the most continuity across the board. They've improved their defense, although I still have questions. Sorry, folks. I'm going to just be that guy. But they're getting amazing stuff from all their role players. I'm not even talking about Jokic being probably one of the best players on the planet and right now playing like the best player in the NBA, but they're getting stuff from Michael Porter Jr. on the defensive end, and he's been phenomenal, his growth on that end of the court. Aaron Gordon's doing exactly what we always thought he would do once he joined the Denver Nuggets, right? And being that guy. Bruce Brown, the KCP pickup, Christian Brown. They're getting so many amazing things across the board from all of their guys. But you just look at it going God, this team is deep. They know how to play. They know how they want to play. Michael Malone has done a fucking unbelievable job coaching this team to the point that he can't even speak in timeouts and they know what he's doing. I'm telling you, he's using ESP at this point to get them to do shit. It's impressive across the board. So, I mean, at this point, when you look at the Nuggets, you just go God damn, they're the best looking team in the playoffs.
And built, not bought. This is the thing that's important to me, is that it's built, not bought. They have come up together. This core, they're homegrown. I mean, I think that they've grown together, and I appreciate how they've faced the little bit of adversity that they've run into this year. The chemistry, the continuity, adding Bruce Brown and KCP. I mean, that was the sort of clincher for me. The two guys that they really have been missing was a defensive first wing and then a guy like Bruce Brown that you could throw on anybody.
I mean, I think that something that I've been kicking myself kind of since the first round, in that all the problems that the Bucks showed in the first round were stuff that we saw and we just kind of ignored.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I think that the things that I liked about Denver, and I've been picking them to make the finals all year, were just what we're talking about. It was incredibly predictable for me that KCP and Bruce Brown would be playoff dudes.
Oh, yeah.
And Christian Brown, even though he's a rookie, is sort of the profile of the guys we've seen be the sort of the big, athletic, strong, can shoot a little, maybe not the most skilled, but look around, you see guys like Caleb Martin for the Heat. In the past, you've seen Pat Connaughton for the Bucks, Lonnie Walker for at times for the Lakers. Like this is the profile of guys who Moses Moody, even for the why we kind of liked Moses Moody in that role for the Warriors. And so they get those pieces in, and on top of which they have the top end. I mean, they have the our guy is better than your guy in any possible matchup.
I mean, that's what really matters, is that they have the best player on the court for 40 minutes a game.
Unbelievable. He's just Jokic is just unbelievable to the point I'm bored. And that's shitty.
Okay, I'm not.
I'm kidding.
Listen,
but like what he does, but what I'm saying is when he
Yeah.
throws an amazing pass, it's like, oh, it's just Jokic. So what the fuck he does.
Right. We
And
wait for the ones that are like generational passes where it's like he throws like, a lefty across the lane through traffic pass that no one's ever thrown before. And that's when we get really excited. But the guy is just a killer. And when you listen to Kevin Durant talk about Nikola Jokic, he's the only person that can really put it in the proper perspective, because Kevin Durant's one of the greatest players of all time, right? Like coming from him when he, talks about Jokic being an unsolvable problem, it carries a little bit more weight than when we say it. But the guy is unsolvable. I don't know. I don't know what stops them from winning the title, unless maybe it's Philly that they run into in the finals and Embiid just wins that matchup, which is possible.
That's an interesting point.
They're so good.
Because the thing that I've noticed about Jokic in this playoffs, and it's been there at times before, but his sort of, especially on the offensive glass, his relentless physicality in terms of just like moving guys out of the way and tipping the ball, and just how Denver is just getting, a couple, 3 extra buckets a game just off of him being, okay, I'm enormous. I'm just going to lean on you, move you out of the way. I've got great hands. This is my ball, not yours. And Embiid is maybe the one guy remaining. Embiid is the one guy remaining in the playoffs, I think, give or take Anthony Davis, and we'll see, perhaps, that he can't just move out of the way like that.
Looney does okay too. We'll give Looney against Jokic is an okay matchup. I mean, Looney still loses the matchup, but he at least doesn't get destroyed.
They have to play him. That's the thing with the Warriors in that regard, with that stuff. Listen, I still think there's issues with both those teams that they might face in the next round that can really stress them.
Sure.
In the way that I thought the Suns might stress them, and we should probably start now talking about the Suns and eulogize them a little bit. But I think I think there will be things that we could probably get into over the next week when we talk about the conference finals once that's set. But more importantly, too, can we stop talking about Jokic then in the way that we want to? He made it to the conference finals. Can everybody just shut the fuck up and just enjoy his greatness now?
Maybe. I don't know.
Twice in
I
4
don't think
years.
so. I don't think so. Yeah, this is his second conference finals, by the way. I don't think that's not going to change. And people are going to talk about Jokic in the way that they talk about Jokic, because you see what you want when you look at players. And Jokic is a player where a lot of people don't see greatness. I'm not sure how, but it is what it is. Let's talk about the Suns, because they're out of it, and we kind of expected this. They sacrificed a lot of depth to get Kevin Durant. And you could argue they didn't have a ton anyway. No Chris Paul, so everything was different for them. Obviously, they lose Ayton for the last game in this series. This was a fine season for them. It's disappointing because they lost, but I'm not saying that the Kevin Durant trade was only for next year, but it certainly was more for next year, where they have a chance this summer to add some pieces, some complementary pieces around those two guys.
I think it became more for next year when he sprained his ankle.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I think
a freak thing. Too.
No, I mean, I think that a lot of people, and I think we were pretty good about, well, maybe you and I, Dave.
I was not. I had my head down very quietly while you were saying that.
Yeah. When the trade was made, we're like, okay, their top end is pretty high, but there's still some issues here. The issues they ran into were foreseeable. They were forced to put some bad players on the court. And when you're top heavy like that, and one or two of your top guys get injured, you're kind of fucked. And like, it didn't have to work out this way, but it working out this way is not surprising. So I think that being a little more circumspect when the trade was made would have been appropriate. But that said, this isn't like dispositive of being a bad trade. It's Kevin Durant.
It's a
Durant.
no-brainer.
Yeah,
It's a no-brainer.
Kevin,
It's what do we need to give you? Like it's not like I know people
Yeah.
are like, well, could you have held on to this guy? No,
No.
because it's Kevin Durant. You don't get to bargain.
Yeah.
And honestly, like they're not in this. They probably aren't in this position where they pushed the Nuggets a little bit. They had some amazing, performances from Booker and some okay performances from Kevin Durant. He was fine. Like he wasn't great, but he was totally fine. And that just doesn't happen if they don't make that trade. That team, they probably get out of the first round, but I don't think that they don't scare the Nuggets without Kevin Durant. And one of my big takeaway for the Nuggets from this, and I think that's everyone's takeaway, Devin Booker has been a good player for a really long time. Devin Booker was maybe the best player in the playoffs outside of Jimmy Butler and Jokic. And I
those
think
are certainly the three.
And I think that's massive for next year for the Suns.
I think there's no question. I mean, this is probably this is the way too early. And if anybody brings this up again, I will slap them sort of situation. But this is like the hey man, I'm going for the MVP next year.
Yes.
Playoffs. And I think that's kind of the scenario in that's what they're going to try to go for. Booker's going to try to go for. And I don't see a reason why he couldn't. I mean, he was the best player in the playoffs until games 5 and 6 when the Nuggets just said, oh yeah, they only have 2 guys.
Right.
That's when the Nuggets decided we don't need to guard the other guys. They'll flame out. And my point exactly, Cameron Payne had 31 points in the elimination game. I think that's kind of just the theory behind that stuff. For the Suns, like, forget just kind of reliving the trade, moving forward. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting offseason. They're over the cap, so it's not like they can just go sign guys. I think they're going to have to find a new home for DeAndre and they're going to have to, and they're going to have to find a new home for Chris Paul. And I think they need to turn those guys into 4 or 5 players. I don't know if it's possible, but they need to turn those guys into 4 or 5 actual NBA rotation players and not the guys they had on the bench this year.
A question I have about that is I think I don't think they can bring both Ayton and Monty Williams back next year and expect, because I think, this is outside looking in, but there's something clearly fractured about that relationship. I do wonder if it's a different voice in the room if you get a more you get more out of DeAndre Ayton. You get more of the DeAndre Ayton we saw in 21 when they went to the finals. So while I see what you're saying, Mo, I do wonder if that's another possible avenue, given that like sort of making that kind of move is only money, whereas kind of the other stuff is sort of tied to salary cap mechanics, which makes it a little more difficult.
You could also always move Ayton at the deadline if it's not working out.
I know what Mo's going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Mo.
No. I want to know what you think I'm going to say, and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
If you're
right. No. So Mo, I think Mo is going to say that having to rebuild your team at the deadline is kind of what they had to do this year, and to make this work, a very specific team kind of around Booker and Durant. You kind of need to build that and put everyone else in their roles and figure out which guys you can count on in which spots. And then if you just like, well, this hasn't worked, let's throw the jigsaw pieces back in the box, shuffle it up again. Maybe the puzzle will be complete when we open the box again. I think that they don't want to end up back in that spot.
Kind of what I was going to say.
Okay.
The other aspect of it is, man, the players look done with DeAndre Ayton. And that's the thing. Like you can kind of just see it on dudes' faces sometimes with him, and just the lack of fight. And like, you know what? Another coach can come in and might be able to get that out of him. Do you really want to bank on that? And then you have to worry about his trade value at that point, and I think there's a value for teams trading for him now in the offseason to get him in there. I think, we will find out. The draft lottery comes up this week, and then teams are going to lose out on Wembanyama that badly need a center, and there's going to be a market for him. The market in the offseason is always more robust, is always cooking more. And then if they don't like the offers, then they could try to keep him and roll with it and see how it is. But I think the sooner the better for them to get this over with. And I think I'm surprised with all the people that are saying Monty's got to go in this instance. And I know it's a bad look. The past two playoff eliminations have been massive blowouts. Man, look at the roster for. I can't hold him this against him. This one I can't hold against him. Look at the roster he had in that. Like he was given a shit salad. Like
it's hard to even judge his offense, to be honest with you, because you just got these two guys that are so much better than everybody else, and it's there's only so much you can do.
I think it's the same discussion about Monty as it was with Bud in the Bucks.
Yeah,
it's less about like, punitive he deserves or he can't, blah, blah, blah. Are the guys in the room still buying what he's selling after these two? And like, I don't know. Like none of us know the answer to that question. But if you do decide to move on from him, it's as much that as anything else. And, part of that is the relationship with Ayton and Mo, to your point, like, yeah, the other players might be done with him. I think that's to some degree a coaching fail also.
Oh, I think the relationship between Monty and Ayton fractured is on Monty. Like, don't get me wrong on that.
But the rest of the players and Ayton also, I think, is an offshoot of that to a degree.
But I think part of it is just everybody's also just kind of tired of Ayton watching basketball while on the court, which there are examples of, his teammates battling for rebounds and him just hanging on the baseline. Like there's those.
Enough about Julius Randle.
Oh,
sorry.
Man, you take some cheap shots.
Man.
Damn. The Knicks fans have gotten strays.
Ayton is a fascinating player to me. I mean, I talk a lot about physically. I love to watch that guy do stuff. I mean, obviously a mid-range sniper. It's the lack of physicality inside. I just don't know. Change of scenery doesn't change that, I don't think. I mean, and you mentioned the Wembanyama thing. The lottery is next week. And a lot of teams are hoping to get a franchise-changing center. I don't know. Is Ayton a nice, like, runner-up prize? If you're the San Antonio Spurs and you miss out on the number one pick, is it worth going in on Ayton? I think probably. He's a good player. If Detroit could get him and Cade Cunningham probably work pretty well together. They need another center.
Yeah.
How does he play with LaMelo Ball if Charlotte could get him? I think that there are options out there, but if you're DeAndre Ayton, that's a massive step back in status. You're going from a team that's competing for finals appearances to a team that's bottom of the lottery, perhaps. I think that that's a big thing. And maybe that's the thing that he needs to be a little bit more forceful on the court. I don't know.
I mean, you say he's a fascinating player. I'm going to use a different F word when it comes to him. He's a frustrating player.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
And it's because he has all the tools for what you would think like you would want from a center. And hey, he's got nice touch or whatever. Him not knowing when to go with nice touch and when to play forceful is the problem, right? Like there were opportunities he could have drawn fouls on Jokic and he just simply faded away instead of going straight up with it. And I think that's a issue with that stuff. I know we're harping on him a ton and I'm probably like the DeAndre Ayton hater in this group, the world.
Yeah, I love DeAndre Ayton. I mean, I'm sorry. Like it is frustrating that he plays soft in the interior, but I mean, he's such a skilled player. Like I like to watch him. I like to watch that guy.
He's a skilled player that doesn't win. That doesn't play, that doesn't show you his skills. He doesn't contribute to winning. Like that's, you know what? I'll take the dude that's just going to be grimy and not as skilled at that point and going to actually just get his nose bloody.
What's
Give
Looney?
Mo Kevon Looney, basically.
It's Looney.
Oh God, every day.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. By the way,
if the Suns had Looney, they're in this series still. No, we're not going there. But
I think that's a.
I think that's a fair. No, I think they might be. I honestly think at least it's going 7. Like,
so
Looney's a playoff player too.
Yeah, I can't take credit for this observation. I saw it somewhere on Twitter, and apologies to whoever saw it. But
I probably
someone was pointing out that there's a little bit of parallels between this year's Suns team and the first LeBron Heat year, where because you've done all the stuff to get the main guys together, and it doesn't totally fit around there, Now, what mechanisms do they have to fill in the pieces around? Questionable, but at the same time, it's not like this is that group isn't a draw for someone. It's like, you know what? I've made my money. I want to play for a championship. I still got stuff left.
Yeah.
Now, picking the right guys, maybe not picking, Terrence Ross as like your top target for that. Like aiming a little higher in terms of the role players, but with an off season too, whether it's moving, whether it was trading Paul or Ayton or moving, Shamit's contract or whatever they end up doing. They have a better opportunity to fill in a more sensible kind of 1 through 8 playoff rotation now than they had a chance to after the trade deadline this year. So I'm not going to say it's a given, but I think there's a very good chance that they're a more dangerous, more complete challenger next year than they were this year.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, again, you get a more dynamic ball handler out there as like the third guy, somebody with a little bit more juice than Chris Paul has left. And it does change.
Bogdanovich.
I love him for a lot of teams though. So,
he just needs
just get him out of Atlanta. Get him out of Atlanta.
Here's my plea to every front office. Go look at how good Kevin Huerter looked in the regular season. Don't ignore the playoffs. Go look at how Kevin Huerter looked in the regular season when he was given a bigger role. Just see if you can get that from Bogdanovich. Right. That's all I got. That's all I got there. That's a side note.
Or John Collins.
Yeah, I mean, God. All right, we'll do an Atlanta Hawks podcast at some point because we love a lot of their players.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at First Leaf. Head over to tryfirstleaf.com/NBA show and save 50% on your first 6 bottles. I love this time of year when the weather's getting warmer and I get to see my friends and family more often. Whether we're going to meet up for a birthday party or a barbecue or we're just hanging out, I always want to have some great wine that I can share, and that's why I love First Leaf. As America's most personalized wine company, First Leaf just has completely taken the guesswork out of my wine selection. I just go online, answer a few quick questions about what I like, what I don't like that week, and their experts curate a selection of award-winning wines tailored to my taste. You get to choose how often you receive your wine, and every single selection is backed by First Leaf's 100% satisfaction guarantee. First Leaf's monthly wine club has made my wine shopping experience much easier than it used to be. I no longer have to wander around a giant wine store guessing at what I'm going to like based on the bottle. Now, I love sharing great wine with my family and friends, and I know you will too. So give First Leaf a try and head over to tryfirstleaf.com/NBA show to sign up and save 50% on your first 6 bottles plus free shipping. That's tryfirstleaf.com, tryfirstleaf.com/NBA show to save 50% on your first 6 bottles plus free shipping. Tryfirstleaf.com/NBA show.
Okay, before we go, we've got a couple of game 6s that are going to take place tonight. We're recording this Friday and putting it out on Friday. So we're talking about the games tonight. We got Knicks Heat game 6 in Miami, and we've got Warriors Lakers game 6 in LA. The Warriors suck on the road. The Heat are closing this out tonight, right? Like we all agree here.
I think so. Although I'm scared that their shooting is now going to get back to regular season levels and when they were bad. I'm a little bit worried the shine has come off a bit, but I think the Heat are winning it. I mean, they damn near pulled off game 5.
So I do worry a little bit about New York's ability to bounce back, just in terms like Brunson and Grimes played all 48. It's the first time 2 teammates have played the entire game in a playoff game since 2005.
They needed every minute.
Yeah, and people have come back at me with game 7 of the Nets-Bucks win, but James Harden sat for 9/10 of a second in that game. So but
damn.
That's but and I think we might see a return of 48-minute Jimmy tonight on the other end. And I think that the Heat close it out. I kind of feel like Golden State is in good shape to win this one tonight. I don't know why I feel that way.
Why. You know why.
Why?
Steph Curry.
Oh yeah, that's why.
You can't. It's like Tim Duncan. And until I see somebody beat him, I am going to pick Steph Curry to win. That's just where I'm at with Steph Curry. The guy just wins. He is a winner. And this team is not that good. We know this at this point. And he carries that team. I just refuse to go against him. I think they're going to take it 7. I'm still picking the Warriors to come out, although I do like that Lakers team so much. They are so tough. I just think that Steph Curry, man, he wins.
I think the Lakers close it out tonight. I think the Anthony Davis shit that people have been throwing on him since he had, what looked like a possible concussion.
Yeah.
Turns out it's not. And everybody kind of piling on with this on, the takes with that. I think he has a monster game. I don't think the Warriors have an answer for how to defend him. Go watch the tape. They've changed the pick and roll, and they're basically switching AD onto Curry, and it hasn't been that good for the Warriors. The Warriors fans who've been screaming for pick and rolls, and I say, listen, they do need to run more pick and rolls. It's not an offense they could live in all game long. It's the Lakers, I think, can actually defend it by just switching it and putting AD on him in that instance. And watching that game 4 where he did a great job with Curry on those few possessions right there when he switched on to him. I think the Lakers do it. I think LeBron kind of chilled game 5.
Kind of
saved himself.
Kind of.
I think he sees the moment right now to get to the conference finals. I think he does this at home. I think it's this is the Lakers run that wins LeBron some more Laker fans, because the bubble run didn't do it. And
right.
This one does. And I think, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I think this one does. I think LeBron knows it. He has ability to sense the moment. Yes, I'm scared shitless that Curry will drop 97 points tonight, but I still
think Curry tonight. It's not Curry tonight.
No, I don't.
He's due. He's due.
He's had a couple of. He had a decent
game
5.
6.
Klay Thompson, game 6. I'm expecting a huge game. It's basketball. Basketball has rhyme, right? It has rhythm. These stories repeat themselves, right? We know this. I'm telling you right now, 3-1 deficit, Steph Curry versus LeBron. It has to happen.
All I know is I can't handle 3 game 7s on Sunday. I don't know if my heart could take it. I honestly don't know if any of my personal relationships can take it. I'm just saying.
Happy Mother's Day.
I can't handle 3. If we have 3 game 7s on Monday, or no, we're only gonna have 2 because the
Heat,
the Heat's on Monday.
The Heat are closing.
Never mind. But no, the Heat, even if it is, that game's on Monday. Denver did its job, so we might just have 2 game 7s on Monday. I'd prefer 1, but I think the Lakers are gonna close this one out.
I got a question for both of you guys, and this might even be proven moot by the time this pod comes out. But there's 2 possible starting lineup changes that I think one makes sense for either team. One, I don't think is going to happen. I don't think that the Warriors are going to start Looney, even though I think they should. I think that Looney guarding AD and letting Draymond roam is a better defensive look for them. I kind of am wondering if the Lakers are going to start Schroeder instead of Vanderbilt.
I think he's been good.
He's been good. He's we talked earlier about Jaylen Brown kind of wearing Harden down with his defensive pressure. That's Dennis Schroeder, you have one job, and that's just to get in Steph's shit for 48 minutes. And I think we've seen at times where Steph has fatigued a little because he's being asked to do so much. And I think just turning Schroeder loose on him from the jump, I think that was something that could pay dividends for the Lakers if it's a close game late.
I'm with you on Looney. I'm with you on that. I don't think Kerr's going to do that. I think that's, at this point, I think it's over and done with. The Schroeder one's interesting, but if I'm the Lakers, I don't know if I make that change. I think there's also a signaling a little bit when you do that stuff in a series. Okay, we're kind of fucked. Right. And I think, sure. Hey, and
maybe
it's
a game 7 switch, Mo.
Maybe, but I think the other thing too, with the reason why I'd probably just stay with Vanderbilt is Schroeder does bring something off the bench.
Yeah.
That if you put him into the starting lineup, now you're hoping you get another wild Rui Hachimura game, right? Because that's your bench performer, right? That's you are basically weakening your bench a little bit because you're going to play Vanderbilt at some point in this game. And so I'd rather let me just get his minutes in early and then have Dennis come in and kind of stick with my rotation. So I'm probably not ready to make that change yet. Maybe game 7, but not yet at game 6.
Yeah. All right. So you're calling Lakers tonight. All right. Well, we're gonna find out. I mean, listen, I just refuse to go against Steph Curry, and I do think this Lakers team is decent. I mean, I think that they're probably better than the Warriors, but it's just Steph Curry. What am I gonna do?
Can we finish this pod by in the past we've gotten in trouble for giving the Denver Nuggets a pat on the head.
Oh,
And I think we should end by, we talked a lot about the Suns, give them a pat on the back and say, that they have been the best team in the playoffs so far and a deserving conference finals entrant.
Were you not here at the beginning?
yeah, I think we did that.
Yeah.
We had self-flagellation by Mo over here for abandoning the Nuggets. That's okay. I'm
never running behind the wagon right now, just running. Let's go.
All right, that's gonna do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Mo DeKeel and Seth Partnow, I'm Dave DeFore, and this has been Nerder. She wrote on the Athletic NBA Show.